Hello and welcome to our Celebrate Black History Leadership Spotlight presented by the Ford Motor Company Fund. Thank you so much for tuning in throughout the month of February. We've had the great privilege of interviewing social innovators from PNC, Bank of America, Collins Aerospace, part of Raytheon Technologies, and Stanley Black & Decker. Today, we're highlighting some of the lessons that we've gathered throughout this month, and we're looking forward to thinking about Black history as more than just a 28-day celebration, but celebrating Black leadership year-round. I'm Cynthia Jones, the Director of Museum Experiences and Engagement at the Henry Ford. And today, I am so grateful to my colleagues, Mydashia and Jerel, who are joining me to kind of wrap up this series, pull out the best of what we've been hearing this month. So welcome, Jerel and Mydashia. I'm going to ask you first off, if you could introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about your role and what you do at the Henry Ford. Jerel, I'll start with you.
Awesome, Cynthia. Thanks for having me. Currently at the Henry Ford, I'm the head of analytics and business intelligence, where I manage the growth and capabilities of the Henry Ford's data engineering and analytics team. Our main goal is to develop visionary advances in the use of data across the Henry Ford. So we create data environments that allow the Henry Ford to serve its mission and partners, and systemic processes and reporting that can be included in business lifecycle planning. Lastly, I co-lead and support the Henry Ford's DEIA Council with Mydashia.
And we'll transition over to Mydashia if my microphone is working again. So wonderful co-lead on our diversity, equity, and inclusion. If you could introduce yourself.
Awesome. Of course. Thank you, Cynthia. I am the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Manager here at the Henry Ford, which means I have the pleasure of collaborating with departments and teams across the institution, really working to identify the critical needs that we have in these areas as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we also work to explore solutions to meet the needs that we have in those areas. As you mentioned, I'm also actively leading our overarching DEIA Council here. My work also includes helping to shape our recruitment strategies to meet our long-term goal of diversifying our workforce here, and overall just pushing our community forward to become more equitable and inclusive for every person here that we have on staff, including folks who are traditionally underrepresented. So that's part of the core of the work that I do.
Excellent. And I know throughout this month, both of you very generously stepped forward and were moderators for these interviews that we were able to do with some of these amazing, both very established and up and coming leaders in their fields. I'm wondering, from your interviews or what you've been hearing this month, what are key takeaways? Did you have a quote or an idea that you uncovered in your interviews or in the interviews you listened to that you'd like to share with us?
Yes. Yeah, I had the pleasure of interviewing Jasmine LaFleur, rocket scientist at Raytheon Technologies, and one key takeaway I uncovered was just the power of an innovative mindset. Not only is she a rocket scientist and innovator by nature, but she leads a nonprofit that creates environments and programs to develop these mindsets in underrepresented youth communities. It was really a light bulb when she leveraged her professional expertise and her passion to create a full circle model of impact, all from that mindset.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so for me, I was able to interview Diola Animashan from Bank of America. He works with their consumer community banking region. And just overall, his story was just very inspiring as an immigrant to America. And in our conversation, he really highlighted the importance of reaching back and giving back to those folks who are sort of coming up behind us in our own journeys. We spoke about Black History Month, of course, and Diola shared that he's inspired daily really by Frederick Douglass, who taught him the importance of not letting your present situation determine your future outcome, which I thought was a very important perspective for all of us to hold on to, especially in the face of challenges, whether it's in work or life in general. And I think that leads into Jarell's point as far as an innovative mindset. You know, the way you face challenges every day, I think helps to build on that and just promotes growth overall.
That's great. I really love that you both kind of pulled out both the innovative mindset, but also the reaching back and reaching forward piece. I also really like, Jerel, your example highlighted some of what I heard from all of our interviewees and what I see in both of you, which is you go beyond the specifics of your job, and whether it's founding a nonprofit outside of your official job and working in that realm, or whether it's working on DEAI councils, whether it's working on employee resource groups. I heard that as a consistent theme throughout all of our interviews this month. And that made me think about my next question, which is, here at the Henry Ford, we've been reflecting that Black history, innovation, empowerment, these are all things that need to be celebrated year round, not just for a month. We've been trying to move towards that as a 365 commitment. What are ways you see this happening, or that you hope to see this happening at the Henry Ford that we might reflect on?
Yeah, I being from an analytics and data background, I see Black history and ethnic groups and race groups and everywhere, in every industry, every occupation. Taking race and color out of it, it's in every group or segment. There is history of color. We just have to look hard enough, and with the power of data and the power of our ability to be social, more social than we have been in prior periods, we can connect that. I think connecting that over time and continuing to find the data points when we're celebrating every major month or every group, really just continuing to see who represents that group from all different backgrounds, including race. So I think that's one way how we can continue that through all of our programming every month.
I love this question, Cynthia. And what came to mind for me is the fact that I think every year around this time of year, around Black History Month, we hear the phrase that Black history is American history, which I agree that it definitely is. And I just wanted to say that, Black history does exist here at the Henry Ford, but we can do much better in that area, which is, I think, an important and a great thing really to acknowledge, because it means that we have the opportunity to grow. My hope is to see us expand and deepen the stories that we share about Black innovators and Black inventors, and really be intentionally committed to uplifting and championing them every day of the year. I also want to recognize that the history of Black people in this country doesn't just exist in the past, but it's here and in the now. And I would love to see us find new and fresh ways to celebrate the history being made in our present today, whether it's in the communities where you live, supporting Black businesses, or coming to a place like the Henry Ford and seeing the stories that we're able to share around Black history.
I really love both of those perspectives. And I think what I so appreciate about being able to do this series with you as joint moderators in this is bringing also the perspective of allyship and thinking about how we can constantly be learning to be better allies, whether that's me personally or whether that's us as an institution that's changing. Thank you for bringing forward, Mydashia. I think what you just said about looking at who's making history today and making those connections. Jerel, I love your perspective on the data points about who's represented in the various months throughout the year and how we can maybe pull those stories forward and gain some traction. And I think there's a lot to learn there. And I think there's a lot we are learning there. So thank you for that. I think it goes to growth mindset for sure. So one of the things I think I've been thinking about throughout this series, and as we get ready to kind of close this month of focus on Black history, but continuing that growth mindset is learning from Black leaders. And I love learning from both of you, so thank you both for that. Our partners for this series have been the Ford Motor Company Fund, and they just released a new episode. They have a whole series of videos, Our Voices, Our Stories, and their newest one focused on Andrew Young. And Andrew Young was someone who I had studied around Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement and the work he'd been doing as a religious leader there in civil rights. So I watched that film recently. It's about 45 minutes, a good watch. And something he closed with was that early in his journey, he'd asked himself if there was something he could do that no one else could do. And I loved that because what the answer that he found was that he could lead through courage. He could lead through collaboration. And I thought that was such a good lesson. So for both of you, thank you so much for leading in those areas. Thank you for collaborating with us on this. Are there any tips or points you would like to leave for leaders up and coming that you'd like to share?
I would, really label it with courage. Do not be afraid to reach out and do something different, and to reach out to those community leaders that you see in your neighborhoods, that, kid, big brother, or teacher. I would really think the focus needs to be on collaboration and collectiveness. I think it's a lot easier to get some of these things done with collaboration and collection.
Yeah, and to that, I think what came to mind for me was, the idea of each one teach one. And going back to Deola's, message about how we reach back and support other people, I think in leadership, it's so important to continue that. We all have our passions and things that we care about. And, if you're focused on the community and the things that are important to you, then you really can't go wrong. So continue to push, as Jerel said, don't give up, stay encouraged and empowered in the work that you do.
I think that is a perfect way to close this series. And thank you both so much. For all of you who have tuned in with us throughout February, thank you for your attention and your time. We hope you have found this empowering. If you get a chance to visit us at the Henry Ford in Dearborn, Michigan, we hope you'll consider taking our tour of Stories of Black Empowerment. That is certainly something we can focus on well beyond February. It's a resource that'll be out there for you well beyond February. So we encourage you to take the time to do that. Visit us in Dearborn or visit us online at thf.org to learn about other leaders, innovators, inventors, and entrepreneurs who inspire us every single day. Thank you.